Okay, welcome. Hi, everybody. It is Saturday morning, earlier than I want it to be. But we're here on episode 6 of Carmela's Rasslin Radio Relived. I'm here with my friends Brian and Jeannie, of course. And we have a couple things that we're going to talk about during this hour. We're going to talk about the the audio from last week about Magnum's accident. And then we're going to go on to some WrestleMania results. And then you'll look behind me, you'll see a picture of Dominic. And if I move my head a little bit, you're going to see Jeannie getting her hair pulled. So we're going to talk about that too. But anyway, how are you guys doing? Brian, Jeannie, everybody all right?
We're doing good.
Everybody's
I've
good.
been up for a couple hours, so I'm good to go.
Yeah, I have too. I went out last night and I shouldn't have, but I did. I went out and forget it, man. I'm too old for this. But anyway, I have to tell you, Debbie says to tell you hello again, Brian. And
All
Jeannie,
right. Hi,
okay?
Debbie.
All right. So the tape from last week, that was a horrific accident. The poor man to this day now, is handicapped. He, from what I understand, he rides on a Segway. That's how
Do y'all remember the pictures? Because I was actually promoting that on Instagram, and I looked the episode on Instagram yesterday, and I looked up Magnum TA because in my mind I had seen the car, and I couldn't remember if I really did or not, but it was actually on front of one of the Aftermags. And he had to be Jaws of what was I
Jaws
say
of
this,
Life.
Life.
yeah, I do the same thing Joel does, but I call it the Jaws of Death. I don't know why I call it that, but he called it scissor. I don't know what he called it, but he called it something else, and you had
Yeah.
to correct him. It was hilarious.
Yeah.
But I don't know how they got a body out of that car.
I don't know either. The car literally looked like an accordion. It did. It really did. And God bless him. I mean, this is definitely somebody was there pulling him out or keeping him alive because the wreck was unbelievable.
It was just crazy. And then
Yeah.
they've done a Dark Side of the Ring about the wreck and the whole. Y'all have probably seen that. But there is something, and I reached out to a few people when they aired the Dark Side of the Ring. There was a few things that they didn't tell, and I really don't know why, because almost everyone in the business thought this. And I don't know if you remember this, Carmela. Do you remember anyone telling you or saying that he was drinking and driving at the time of the
Yes.
accident?
I
Yes.
do remember that. I do remember. Again, I mean, I don't know. I wasn't there.
Oh, I
but
wasn't
do
there. Right,
remember,
right.
Yeah, I do remember people talking about it, that he was drinking and driving. Again, no proof. I will not say for certain.
Allegedly, that's what we
yeah,
were told back
it's
then.
alleged,
I'm not
yeah.
saying, I don't have no idea, but they never mentioned that in the Dark Side of the Ring.
Exactly. Jeannie, did you ever hear anything else about it?
Back in the day, yeah. And I think we all kind of assumed
Mm-hmm.
that that's what happened. I mean, I know it was, that the car, it was raining and he was speeding fast and the car hydroplaned and the accident happened. But I guess because I saw the Dark Side of the Ring as well, and I'm assuming since they didn't mention it, that he wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
But who
I just
knows?
don't know unless the family said, "Hey, we'll talk about everything, but we won't." Because I don't know if he, the thing about it is, it'd be public record if you want to go see if he got a
Yeah.
ticket for that, if there was any way of knowing, because he would have
Right.
got a
Yeah.
ticket for it. But it's something I found really funny. Not funny, but just the idea that y'all were asking for cards for him, and y'all were going to give them to some of the wrestlers and everything. Do you ever remember how many cards you got?
Yeah, and I don't know how many. No, to be honest with you, it wasn't a whole lot, but we did get some cards and we did forward them. Honestly, I don't know 100% for sure that he ever got them,
Okay.
but we did do what we said we were going to do. And also, I did a little bit of research, and supposedly your car can hydroplane at 30 miles an hour all by itself. Okay. So if you're going 30 miles an hour and your car can hydroplane, imagine if you're speeding. It's probably like the car literally was flying off the ground, So, I mean, he could not have been drinking. You know,
yeah. He was,
and he was just going too fast.
Yeah, they said speeding and hydroplaning. He could have had apparently they said he could have had an accident. Going any speed really.
Yeah.
But I just wondered about those cards. It was funny that people and some kid called in. I could not hear what he said, but he was a real asshole. He said something about
Yes.
What did he say?
You know what? I'm trying to think. Jeannie, did you hear? What
Yeah. No, he called him a scum.
Oh, I didn't know.
He said Magnum TA scum.
Yeah.
That's what he said. And then Carmella kind of went off. Well,
yeah, she was pissed at the end.
What you called Magnum is what you are, okay?
Yeah, exactly. That's not right. I mean, it's not. Too many people are too quick to judge. Do not judge unless you be judged yourself, unless you're in that situation. How do you get off judging somebody else when A, you weren't there, B, you don't have all the details, none of us do, and C, you're just letting everybody know what your mentality is.
The thing that came to mind to me when I heard that guy say that, or that kid say that, was that it was a precursor to the internet. He was just anonymous, and he called in to say whatever he was going to say, and we have no idea who that was. He just said, "I'm George from from
Wyoming,
Spokane."
yeah.
And I just started laughing. I was like, oh, wow, that's the internet. Back then, people were doing the calls instead of typing something with no one knowing who they were.
Exactly. You were able to get away with stuff back then, not anymore.
And the fans it was a real high percentage of everyone still believed that was calling it. They still believed. But then there was that one guy, he cracked me up because he believed, but he could tell what a crappy match was. I remember that as a kid, I would tell my mom, I didn't like that match because Jimmy Valiant was playing around all night. He wasn't working. He was just playing around, and I didn't like the match. But it was a Dusty JJ match, and he said, I hated that. It was like, and Joel was like he said, it was only 2 minutes. He goes, yeah, but that was horrible, blah, blah. I was like, man, he's being a critic of what they're doing. But he still believed. That's the funny part about it.
Exactly. That's the thing. And nowadays, everybody knows everything. So it's just ridiculous. But you guys talked about the dark side of the ring, and I'm just going to jump the gun here a little bit. I watched the Chris Adams Dark Side of the Ring.
I haven't watched it yet. I sure have.
Do you want me to not talk about
it? No,
Brian?
you can talk about it.
Okay.
I don't care.
This man, literally broke my heart. Okay. They talked about how and you see it. I mean, I didn't know the man personally, but Jeannie Clark was on it, and she was his girlfriend at the time. They had a daughter named Jade. And afterwards, she wound up marrying Steve Austin.
Right.
And then they have 2 daughters together. But apparently when he drank, they called it Jekyll and Hyde. He became such a different person. Like, it's not like, if you drink too much or whatever, you get giddy, you laugh, or if you drink too much, you get mad, or, you punch somebody. But if he would literally become psychotic when he drank, I mean, completely off the rails. And as it turned out, ultimately, the way they said it on there is he was so drunk, he was trying to literally kill somebody, one of his friends that housed him and let him stay there.
Right.
And the friend just grabbed off the table. He grabbed a gun that he had and just shot him, tried to shoot him in the shoulder, but it went over near his heart too far. And they deemed it was self-defense, and he killed him. But my opinion, of course, as always, is if it's doing this to you, get help and try to stop, because you're hurting people. Yeah, he also had a woman that he married. I forgot her name, but there was an issue with her where they were doing, remember GSB? Or GHB. GHB.
That's the date rape drug.
Yeah, that was pretty big back then, And I mean, obviously, it's called something different, ecstasy or whatever now. But back then, that and instead of taking like a drop or whatever, I guess you're supposed to take, him and his wife split it. They put him 2 shot glasses and just drank, and she wound up dying. I mean, it's so sad.
It was one of those drugs that if you got too much really quick, there's a documentary on Netflix about a serial killer that used it.
Yeah.
He used GHB as his weapon, and he would just put it in a drink. He'd leave the guy, rob him, and leave him and kill him. So, and the drinking thing, my dad was like one of the sweetest guys ever. And I've talked about this on my podcast about him being a weekend alcoholic, and that's what brought me and my mom going to wrestling every weekend, because he was gone to the bars and we went to wrestling. But my dad was he wasn't violent. And he wasn't really mean. Every once in a while he'd get mean, but he was a different total person when he was drinking. I mean, just night and day. So I know how that is, but we didn't see a lot of the actual violence part of it.
So was my father. My father was nasty when he drank. But that's a whole other cup of coffee. But anyway, let's skip from that now, and let's talk about this picture, Jeannie. Tell us about this. If I'm not mistaken, this was shortly after we went to Dominic's school. And
yes.
And you learned what you learned, and then he kind of like clicked a button there to make you like want to be a valet.
Yes. Well, he wanted to train me to be an actual female wrestler.
Right.
And he hounded me forever. And no. And then when he invited us to go to the school to see, he got me in the ring. I think I told this story.
Yeah.
But then he had a show afterwards, which had all of his students. And the main event was him against Larry Zbyszko. And he asked me to valet for Larry Zbyszko.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what this was, and it was awesome. It was just I got chills right now.
Yeah.
It was just so much fun, and I'll never forget, like, in that picture, he, and I have a sensitive scalp, if you remember.
I remember.
And he was just like, and so I started punching him, and you see his arms are as long as his legs. He has like gorilla arms.
Oh yeah.
And he held his arm all the way out, and I'm like trying to punch him in the chest and hitting because I wasn't close enough. And I finally got a couple shots in, and he kind of under his breath said, "No, chop." And so I'm like, okay.
No, I'm not chopping you. You're hurting my head.
This is friggin' stupid. This don't feel natural. No. And I went back to punching, and but it was so much fun. It was.
Were you a fan of Dominic? So I mean, were you a wrestling fan? You knew who he was and everything.
I had only known who he was through Carmella.
Oh, okay.
Because I stayed with Carmella a lot. I lived with her for a while, and so he would always come over whenever he was in town, and I got to know him there. But did I watch him as a kid wrestle? No.
I remember.
I mean, I've seen videos since, but
getting chills. I think I really I did the managing thing for about 5 years in this area, and I got to where it was just, you didn't get the butterflies, you didn't get it, you just went out and did what you were supposed to be doing. But I remember being in the middle of the ring, some little small town, I think it was Rector, Arkansas, and we were doing a thing with Bobby Eaton. And the Midnight Express music started, and I'm standing in the middle of the ring with the guy I was managing, and I just got, goosebumps all over my body. I turned to the guy, Greg, and I said, "Greg, man, I guess I could die after this, because that is Bobby Eaton of the Midnight Express."
Yeah.
And then I ended up getting to punch him and all kinds of stuff, but it was one of those guys that, I wanted to do something with when I was managing, and it was just an opportunity given to us, and it was just awesome. So I can understand. And I remember some of the first times I went out, I think I was so scared. I don't remember much of what happened if I didn't have it on videotape. So.
Well, I'm going to let you in on a little tiny, tiny secret that I haven't mentioned in a while. My first, when I was little, I had tons of exposure, to wrestlers. Like I said, Spiros Arion, for some reason, fell in love with me as a child. Not that kind of love. Don't get crazy.
Right. We get it.
You know, but he used to sit with me and play with my dolls, or he would take me by the hand and walk me around the back, and I'd go get a drink, or, you know, that kind of stuff. I don't know whether it was like he had children. I never found that out, but he just took to me. So it was him, it was Haystack Calhoun, it was Dominic, it was a bunch of them, you know, but the one really big exposure, my first one, was with Ivan Putski. And that's an extremely long story. One day, maybe we'll talk about it. But when I first met him, he used to like talk to me from the ring. And I can't tell you how many times he got in trouble from Vince, because he would literally say stuff to me from the ring, you know, hi Carmella, you know, blah, 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 whatever. Anyway, he used to always, my mother used to love the song, My Melody of Love, with, what's his name? Bobby Vinton. You know, the one that goes, Moya, Droga, Yache, Koham, you know, that has the Polish in it.
Right.
Well, if any of you saw him on the Hall of Fame when he was inducted, he actually sang that song as part of his acceptance.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I don't remember. I've always watched the Hall of Fame. I can't remember anything.
And that was dedicated to me.
Oh,
no,
wow.
I'm just letting you know. I mean, that's what he and I talked about. I knew he was going to do it. We talked about it.
Look, I tried to get a Bobby Eaton story, and it just totally tossed both of us. Forget our stories. Yeah.
Nah, come on, that's not why. I just reminded, you know, when you get to be my age, Brian, things pop into your head at the last minute, and that just popped into my head.
That feeling.
You know, but
I got to make notes on everything. Look, I got some more questions about the show we listened to this week. So
go ahead.
Mark from Cherry Hill, he got in 3 times or 4 times during this show. Was that Mark Corluzzo?
No.
Oh, it wasn't?
I forgot his last name, but that was another boy. He was actually from Cherry Hill. That's why we called him Mark from Cherry Hill.
Yeah.
He was extremely, extremely knowledgeable about the wrestling. But it's funny because if you notice, he had a drawn out kind of way of speaking.
Yes,
and,
he did.
You know,
yeah. And I was like, Cherry Hill, that was where did Dennis and them lived in Cherry Hill, I think, or around Cherry Hill. And
honestly, I don't think his son was old enough then, actually.
Maybe not. Yeah. I was going to message him and ask him, but I am going to message him and let him know that we're doing this because I know he listened to Rasslin Radio. All right. What was my other?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought the references, and I know this is dated, but it's something that we heard all the time, was Titan Sports. Did you?
Yes.
Y'all were talking about Titans, and I was just like, it's been so long since they've been referred to as Titan Sports, and especially like as soon as they went out of WWF, we kind of changed that. And then, do y'all ever remember them being called the Whiff? WHIFF?
Nope, I don't remember that
was
at all.
An inside term that I don't know. I don't know if it was Meltzer related or it was, and I don't even know what it meant. But that's what they called it.
Really? Now that I didn't know.
What did they do this on a regular basis? Because the night before you recorded this, they did a WWE show and a WCW or Crockett.
NWA,
NWA show, both on the same night. Did they do that a lot?
Yes, they did, because they were going literally up against each other, which therefore, if you remember correctly, when the WWF, they did that thing where they took over WCW, blah, 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 that kind of thing. There was constant battle between WWF, NWA, and that's another show that we'll do at some point, because we had really, really big working relationship with NWA. But yeah, they would do that on purpose. Absolutely. Both organizations did it on purpose. It's crazy
because that kind of went on to when they started doing TV and they did specials. They used to compete against each other all the time. They don't do that a lot, even with AEW now, but I thought that was really interesting. And something Joel said, and I wanted to clarify it, because I used to get tapes. Now, the WWE show was at the Spectrum, right?
Yes.
And so if you went to the NWA show, you could go see the NWA show live, But the next weekend, you could watch it on a
Prism.
TV station. What was it on?
Prism.
Prism. You
Yeah,
could watch.
remember? Look at
Oh.
Jeannie. Yeah.
So I used to get the recordings of the Prism from the Prism shows, and they would be just crystal clear because it was some guy was recording and sent them to me. But it was really funny that you could, and Joel was like, as a wrestling fan, you could tell he was like, man, this, I get to go see NWA live and I can watch the WWE show the next week.
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
what I'm going to pick, but
Yeah.
it was interesting to see the fans calling in. And also, if you can remember this, and you probably won't be able to, but who the hell was the Red Demon? That's what I want to know.
Oh, wait a minute. Wasn't that Chesick? Wasn't that him, Jeannie? Chet.
Later.
Chesick.
That was way later. No, we don't know. I don't know.
No, you mean as a phone caller?
No.
No.
He was
Never
on
mind,
that
never
show.
mind. Okay.
He was
Yeah.
Jimmy Hart, wasn't he? He was Jimmy Hart's security guard that very night, and everyone was calling in. Who's the Red Demon? Who's the Red Demon? And y'all got a big kick out of it because y'all was like, wow, here we go at the Red Demon. And y'all might tell later on, but I thought that was really funny. I have to do some research.
I have to do research on that too. As a matter of fact, we're going to have Joel on one week soon. And he'll be able to shed a lot more light on some of those little tiny things. He was like you that way, where he did a lot of research and wanted to know the little tiny things, like Terry Taylor.
But they want to know. You said something too about they asked who the machines were, and you was like, we can't tell you that. But then y'all went on to tell. Were y'all told not to tell people who was kayfabe, the people that were under the mask?
Yeah, because again, back then was a lot of kayfabe. And like when Dusty put a mask on or whatever, you could tell.
Y'all just played along, so
you have to. Yeah, back then you actually absolutely had to. Yeah, but it was fun, and the people were like, wow, you really know who it is. Everybody kind of knew. It's just a matter of actually saying it. Then you would have gotten, kind of like in trouble, kind of whatever. But
you talked about which I remember that interview. Because you talked about the Valiant interview, and we were recording my podcast last night, and I was talking about my vacation and how I had a hard time with a doctor's appointment, and I was going to do that interview, which was so weird because I listened to this podcast this morning, so that would be fresh on my mind. I was like, I remember his promo. I was just going to do the whole promo because I was feeling crappy. But you talked about Big Mama's hair. Valiant got that idea from Memphis because Dundee had put his wife's hair on, and she actually got her head shaved.
Yeah.
So that's where he stole that idea from, and I never even put those two and two together till then. And then y'all said something, and you got to tell me whether this is true or not. I did not even know this. That Crockett had a plane, that he put them all on the same plane.
Yes.
The heels and the babies. He didn't care. He was just saving money and putting them on that plane.
That's true. As a matter of fact, we had gone to meet up with Crockett a few times, and they were that way.
That's crazy.
Financially thrifty, I would say.
Think about this, though, exactly what y'all said. And, Jeannie, you think about this, too. The idea that what if that plane would have went down?
Yeah.
The whole promotion would have been.
The whole thing, yeah. There would be nothing left. But, yeah, they did, And, I mean, they were all three working together, the Crockett's. And the sister was heavily involved in that. I think her name was Frances, maybe.
Huh.
I don't know. But anyway.
That just shocked me. I just listened to the Dark Side of the Ring, the podcast. They do clips from other shows that they didn't show on the TV. Right. And they were talking about, before our time, the 30s and 40s, the wrestlers would get a trailer and put it at the back of their truck, and they would all the heels would be at a trailer park A, all the babies would be trailer park B, and they'd put their families there. Yeah. And then you would go to the matches in your truck. Your trailer would stay there at the RV park. And everyone, and my wife said, I was telling her that because I didn't know any of that until they started talking about it. She was like, what if your best friend as a kid, your best friend's daddy turned heel and he had to move across town. She said, "Them poor kids." I said,
I
"Yeah,
know.
but they did that."
That's
Okay.
what they did because it was so important to keep them
At
separate.
kayfabe, yeah. My dad was a wrestling fan, and then he got on. There used to be a ferry in Dyersburg, Tennessee, to go across the river, Mississippi River, and he got on the ferry one night after he had went to wrestling, and I believe it was Tojo. Tojo was feuding with, I think, Jerry Jarrett at the time, and they were there together.
Right.
It just killed my dad. He was like, "Nope, it's fake.
Yeah.
I don't want no part of it."
No, it's true. Yeah.
So it
It's
was
crazy.
okay. So Frank, is it Frank Katz? Is that a name I should know?
Okay, I think you're putting two names together.
Maybe I am.
It's Frank
Chili.
and David Katz.
Dave Katz. That's a name. Did he call or y'all mentioned him or something?
Well, he did a lot. Again, like I said, we're going to have a show with Frank Chili. He was what they call Frankie the Thumper. He was part of the Caruso, Frankie,
Right.
mafia kind of thing that we had.
Well, Dave? Who is that? I can't
Dave
remember.
is a friend. Dave is a good friend of
That
ours.
name is so familiar.
Yeah.
He's probably, if he listens to this, he'll probably.
Very, very, very into wrestling. As a matter of fact, Dave probably has some stories like to end all stories too. We'll have him on too, if he's willing to come on. Dave has been a longtime friend. He was friends with Paul for a long time, and then I just picked up when, right after that. But I'm also trying to get Paul. This is another issue. I'm trying to get Paul on the podcast as well. The only problem is it's too hard to do. We have to figure something out because it's too hard for him to do this. It really is. In the condition and stuff that he's in, but we'll figure all that out later. But yeah,
if he has a computer, the thing, I just want everybody to know, if you want to come on the show, you don't want to be on video, we're cool with that too. It's just an easy way to record, so you don't have to start your video. You don't have. We'll just take the audio. A couple more questions. I love the show, by the way. I love the old going down memory lane.
Yeah.
Was Frank? So I got that. Dave Katz. Y'all were talking about Hogan Orndorff in every town, sometimes two times a day. God,
Yeah.
I love those matches. I absolutely just love those matches.
They were great.
And also talk to me about the November 17th show in Valley Forge that y'all actually promoted. You had a lot of local talent on there, but you had Brody against Abby. Did that match happen?
Yes.
Talk to me about it.
Oh my God. All right, Jeannie, you go first.
Oh,
you were there.
And yes, I was, but as you know, I have Alzheimer's, and I remember being there, and I remember the show, and it was like amazing, but actual details, not so much. So sorry about that.
Well,
but there was a lot of local guys that love to death, that were on the card as well, and
I think that was
one of the
night. I think that was one of the first Ebony and Ivory nights too.
Yes,
it was. You were promoting Ebony and Ivory, and I had
that was Tom Brandy and Virgil.
Yeah, Mike Jones. Both those guys worked Memphis, which I think had a lot to do with all this. We'll be talking about this next month, but the Memphis connection you guys had. Tom Brady came down here and worked, and then Mike Jones ended up here doing his Apollo Creed gimmick.
Yeah.
The first time I saw him, he was doing the Apollo Creed gimmick.
Yeah.
But I thought that was neat, and I thought it was so smart because you said you were promoting the shit out of this local talent, and it's something that a lot of people miss out on. You put the two big names at the top, but you put all local talent on the bottom so that people, they say, hey, I seen Ebony and Ivory. I'm gonna come out and see Ebony and Ivory. You don't have to have that big name every time you go. But do you remember anything dealing with Brody Abbey? How much they cost?
I'm just going to get into that. Yeah. What happened was, believe it or not, backstage, they were very nice people. To this day, I mean, Abdullah the Butcher is very easy to talk to. God bless him. And so was Brody. They were very, we went over, of course, everybody now knows, you went over the match and what was going to happen. And, but I'll tell you what, they never did not give you an excellent show. I mean, ever. They were bleeding. There was blood everywhere and blah, blah, blah. There was this one part that was at the end, toward the end, where Abdullah just would not stop jabbing Brody with pencils and pens and knives and, you know, what he always used to do. I was supposed to go out there as the promoter, as part promoter, and I was supposed to, like, you know, get back in the dressing room. You're done. That's it, you know. And I went up to Abdullah, and that was the whole thing. He knew about it, you know. So I went up to Abdullah and I did the, you know, I'm like, get back in the dressing room. This is baloney. I'm not doing this anymore. You know, you're fired or whatever I was
Right.
All of a sudden, Abby looks at me, okay? And you know how Abby had that look that he'd get real the big eyes. And
crazy look.
All of a sudden, he gave me this look, and I thought to myself, wait a minute, that wasn't part of the conversation, you know? And then he started chasing me. He chased me almost.
Oh, we got a video of that. God, we need to have video of that.
I wanted to die. And here I am at the time. I had on a suit with a dress, a skirt, you know, high heels, and I'm running. And I went in the back and I'm like, I hate him. I'm going to kill him, you know? And I was so angry. He, at the end of the night, laughed so hard about that.
I bet he did. Yeah.
I didn't, but he did. Okay. But we also had, I believe, Mosca was on the show.
I don't know if he was on the show. I don't remember the list of names, and I had wrote down.
He was.
They was real popular on the indie scene at the time, and it was a match that you guys wouldn't get in that area. That was a smart thing you and Joel did. Was y'all brought them matches that they wouldn't see in that area. Not an NWA match, not a WWE or WWF or whatever match. And that, how well did it draw?